just coming home today. So God bless America, the USA. 21 guns.
Welcome
Good.
to the show.
Thank you. Thank you. Good day, Morgan.
How are you today?
I am doing good. Got the VA calling me. I was like,
Got the,
denied.
the VA call you denied.
I was like, denied.
Man. Well, first, let me say thank you for being our special guest on the show today. How's the family doing?
Family's doing good. Nobody is here, and I'm loving it. They're all gone. Done. No, Emmanuel's that. Well, I don't even know Emmanuel. Emmanuel's 24. He is finishing up his bachelor's this year. Raina's at school. She's 11th grade. Next month is junior prom. Man, she's 16, beautiful. And Michael's at work right now. And me, I'm here with my babies.
That's great. Always good to hear family is doing well. You are doing well as well. We're going to go ahead and get into our first question. Our first question is, what inspired you to join the military?
Are you serious? Inspiration. There was no inspiration. I tell you what, it was more like motivation. I was inspired. I come from a long line of military family. My father did 26 years in the Army. His father did 20 years in the Air Force, and his father was also in the Army. And it just kind of goes back all the way. We have I call it the Giddens curse, where we just kind of sacrifice our firstborn to the military. But I was smart, right? So I joined the Coast Guard.
Yeah.
So being born and raised pretty much on Army bases, which is the hood, really, and watching movies like Scarface and Lethal Weapon, I had zero connection or experience. I've never seen Coast Guard, never seen the Navy, because you're pretty much remote, in areas when it comes to Army bases. Yeah. And honestly, I was coming towards my graduation with no avenue, way of, what's going to happen after graduation. And I grew up with the mentality that, people only join the military for two reasons. A, to get away from family, to find a better life, you need to get away, or patriotism. Yeah. So I was watching Lethal Weapon, where I think it was Lethal Weapon 3, where the Coast Guard had these Chinese migrants. And that was the second time I saw the Coast Guard. And I didn't know anything about the Coast Guard. I thought Coast Guard was like Baywatch. You just kind of sat around the beach, And my father was in his makeshift office, and he's a ham radio enthusiast. And he was on his ham radio doing his thing. And I'm watching Lethal Weapon. I said, Dad, is the Coast Guard military? And he came in and he looked at the TV and he said, you know what? I don't know. I'll find out for you. And this is Fayetteville. North Carolina. And then he left. And not even a week later, I had a Coast Guard recruiter in my house. My father didn't tell me, didn't give me any forewarning. Tomorrow I'm going to have a Coast Guard recruiter here. He just asked me what I'm doing the next day. And I told him nothing. He said, all right, make sure you come home, blah, blah, blah. The next thing you know, I had a Coast Guard recruiter from Wilmington, North Carolina, drive all the way up to Fayetteville to give me the lowdown on the Coast Guard. And he lied, like all they do. They just be lying, like all of them. And I was smitten. And then I joined. And then, part of training, they talk to you about cutters. And I was confused why they're talking to us about cutters. Like, I didn't join the Navy. Like, where are these cutters? I want to see the beach, So I got a rude awakening about what the Coast Guard was really like.
So boot camp, when you joined, how was boot camp for you?
I was on the extended program, as you probably remember. I don't know. I was there. Crazy thing is, I got there.
The extended program, pardon me.
I was on the extended program. I got there, And one of my longtime friends who I told about the Coast Guard, nobody knew anything about the Coast Guard up in, around, Fort Bragg. Nobody knows anything about it. So I started spreading the word about Coast Guard. And then I went into boot camp. And then I found one of my old friends. He is in boot camp with me. And I'm like, what are you doing? He's like, oh my gosh, well, you've been talking about it. It sounds so nice. What you call it, misinformation. I continued misinformation. And he's like, what is this? I'm like, I have no idea. I'm just as shocked as you are. We're learning all these crazy things. He actually retired too after 20, I think he did like 23, 24 years in the service as well. And we still keep in contact to this day. And I found out when I had really bad knees. I hurt my knees and I hurt my feet really bad. So they end up putting me in, at that time, if you get injured in boot camp, they put you in med hold with no expectations and really no goal as to, all right, you need to be here for a week and this is your physical therapy and blah, 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 blah. So I was there for almost a month in med hold. So what's supposed to be 2 months of boot camp ended up being 3 months of boot camp for me. And it just started to seem like nothing was happening. There's really no support or resource. When I went in 97 in boot camp, it's different now. It's changed, I think. But I didn't quite enjoy my time in boot camp. And then and then when they put you in a new company, depending on what company you go into, sometimes those company commanders at that time really didn't like when new people come into their boot camp. So they stress on them harder. So I was a new person coming into one boot camp, and it is just, I'm Hispanic, I'm a woman. It's just like, it was just, why are you picking on me? It was, specifically ousting me. And there's a lot of women there, but specifically I'm there and I'm being told it's because you weren't part of that group. You were, rephased into that group type of situation. And that's why they're extra hard on you, because they don't know you and they want to break you. And then if you say something out of context, then they'll revert you. So that was boot camp. I was there for 3 months.
Yeah, that's great. They will revert you. I know.
They will revert you. Now they don't do that anymore. You graduate with your company, and then if you have any issues or injuries that you're not fit for full duty, you'll stay there getting well, and then you go to your unit or whatever like that. So
okay. You did mention your first unit. What was your first unit? What was that experience like for you?
Small Boat Station, Charleston, South Carolina. And I was the second female there. And they didn't know how quite to take me in to, what's the word? Welcome. You think it'd be easy, right? You're a person. I grew up on Army bases and pretty much, was a tomboy, and most of my friends were guys. So to me, it was no issue. I'm going to pretty much an all dominated man crew. And that's what small boat stations typically are, all men. And so I was excited. I had such optimism, and the first guy that I still to this day, we're Facebook friends, and he made me feel so welcomed. He was the first guy that welcomed me. He was already trying to haze me or try to throw jokes, and stuff like that. And I thought this was going to be really, really cool, because he was the first person I met that, had that joking attitude and that welcoming personality. But quickly I found that was just one person. It was just luck that I had a guy who had that welcoming personality. You start going into 40 of other men, and it's realizing everybody has their barriers up. Everybody had their brigades up, barricade and it's just like, you're a girl, I can't talk to you because God forbid you get offended, and I have my career. So you get isolated immediately once you go there. It's just ridiculous. I was just like, and then it's hard if you're at small police station because you got what you call it, you got prequels you got to do. They give you this little brochure and you're like this little pamphlet and they go, I need you to start doing all this, and you got to become efficient and sufficient to all of these stuff. So start working on these things and get in these initials that you know how to do those. Well, how do you get that done if nobody wants to show you? I'm 18 right out of boot camp, 18 right out of high school, and no one wants to talk to you.
Yeah.
It's very different. It's shell shocking. It's shell shocking.
Yeah, that is a difficult situation to be in, as a junior enlisted person needing some senior leadership, and because of the I guess the social structure, people are scared to engage and interact just because of past situations and people not knowing how to communicate. So it does put a strain on new people coming in and assimilation process, getting comfortable and familiar with things at a unit. Hopefully they work on that within the organization, so that way that quality can improve for receiving new members into units. When you got to your unit, what were some of that specific unit, what were some of your roles and responsibilities? What did you do? What was your rank at that time coming out of boot camp?
I was an E2 coming in as a non-rate at Smallville Station. The big thing was law enforcement. You had to become a boarding team member qualified. But Coast Guard at that time, we didn't have we didn't have subcontracts for a lot of the stuff that you would think big businesses would have, right? So like cleaning wise, you had to do all the cleaning for a building, which why don't you just contract this out and have a create jobs and have janitors and people who are actually contracted to come and clean? No, this is your building, you're going to clean it. So for a non-rate who just got finished, let's say, priming and painting, sanding, and doing all this stuff for, let's say, 6 to 7, 8 hours throughout the day. They have all these different tasks of maintenance that you got to do, create lines, create bow lines, just all these different things. And then, God forbid, let's say, for instance, you have a call, a SAR alarm goes off, and then you have to go and do that. And that could be anything from 30 minutes to 3 to 4 hours to all fucking day, right?
Yeah.
Then after that, as a non-rate, well, the BMs and the MKs, because they're petty officers, they're going to hit the rack. Places still needs to get cleaned.
Yeah.
Don't forget to clean this and clean that and make sure that's clean for the next following day, because the XPO is coming in, the ONC is coming in, the new crew is coming in, and nobody wants to go into, an office and see trash is still there from the next day. God forbid, trash is still there from the next day. So a non-rate can really just be, for me, it was like I'm now sleeping 2 to 4 hours a night. Mm-hmm. And we had our duty rotations was duty day work off, duty day work off. So you would have, sliding weekends. So you would have duty, which means you're coming in on a Friday and you don't leave till Monday morning. Mm-hmm. And you're on call 24/7 and you're there and you're working every day. You're working, you get up, you go work, you got your duty list, and then you got your SAR alarms or whatever you got to do. You got your underway time, you got to do all this kind of stuff. That is 4 days, about 3.5 days. It's 3.5 days of work. Somebody who just came out of high school was jumping in right then and there. When I reported on a Saturday, they had me have duty on a Sunday. I had duty on a Sunday. I reported on Saturday. They said, all right, we're going to give you today off, get your stuff. Here's the barracks, get situated. We'll see you Sunday morning. Sunday morning, I was there in my uniform. And that was pretty much it. It never stopped. I had duty Literally, I tell people I had to do the day I came in and as a chief until pretty much I retired.
Can you tell us a little bit about what you did after A school, what your first unit was like after A school?
So after Charleston, um, I went to 2 A schools. So the first A school I went to was dental tech. So I was a dental tech, and I had a corpsman there tell me, don't go dental tech because the future of it is they're going to get rid of it. They're going to contract that out to dental assistants. So we won't have any dental technicians in the Coast Guard. And this was a time where Coast Guard was getting rid of a lot of their rates. They were just Xing out a lot of rates and creating new rates, which didn't really make a lot of sense, but they were just getting rid of some rates and then subcontracting a lot of stuff. So Coast Guard was starting to become more civilianized in a lot of areas that we, just like the Navy, we had our own, we had our own medical officers, we had our own corpsmen, we had our own pharmacy technicians, we had our own orthopedic technicians, we had our own radiology technicians. We started to get away from all of that and start civilianizing a lot of stuff. And what the problem with that is that we become more dependent on the outside and less getting that experience for our people, to have those experiences. So I didn't really heed to warning. I mean, at that time how old was I? I was 19. I was 19 years old. And the dental technician waiting list for that was 5 months. And I'm like, great, I need to get the fuck out of here. I'll go to dental technician school. It's 5 months long. So I get there and it's the West Coast. Never been to the West Coast. And I was amazed. Petaluma, California was amazing. Just the people was different. The culture was different. The lifestyle was different. I'm taking it all in. I am just like, I'm drunk. I'm drunk in love with California.
Yeah.
It's definitely different from East Coast. And the chiefs there and the people there and the support there was different.
Mm-hmm.
They were welcoming. They wanted to educate you. They wanted to know you. They were like, what's going on? Like, I mean, it was such a camaraderie. Did not feel on the East Coast. I felt on the West Coast. And it sucked because it was like bitter. I didn't want to leave California knowing that my new unit was Cape May, New Jersey. And remember, I went to boot camp in Cape May, New Jersey. I was excited to go to Cape May, New Jersey, because at that time I had my longtime boyfriend who lived in Cape May, New Jersey, and I wanted to go see him and be with him. So I'm looking forward to that, but that career part of you wanted to stay on the West Coast because it was such a nurturing environment that I appreciated about the Coast Guard.
That's great that you shared that. What type of work did you do? What were your roles and responsibilities at any unit once you came from A school for young people who may be aspiring for a health service career in the military or in the Coast Guard specifically? Could you share just some of the stuff that you have done in your magnificent career?
My magnificent career. Well, I'm not gonna. I was a little bit spoiled. The clinic setting, when you first get your certificate, right, as to your rating as to what you're going to be doing, you can get very spoiled because your next unit, that's exactly what you're doing. You're learning to do that. So it's on the job training. So being in Cape May, all I did was dental technician. So that's all I did. And then once a week I had to be a corpsman. So you start to feel this animosity. Well, that's not why I'm here. I'm here to be a dental technician, but they want you to be a corpsman, right? And so you learn very early on, no matter what your MOS is, no matter what your rating is you're a petty officer first, rate last. You're a body first. So whatever I tell you to do, you got to do. And it could be definitely way out of the norm. We have cooks that are quartermasters. Why? but you got to learn, you know. We
Right.
have, we have cooks that are becoming, now you got to be the law enforcement. Why? Everyone has to have, so don't go in there thinking this is all I'm going to do, because you're going to be stretched out and you're going to be diverse into a lot of things that you just feel. And then sometimes some people get a little big headed and they're like, that's not why I'm here. And I did fight it. I did fight it a lot. Like, that's not why I'm here. That's not why I'm here. That's not my job description. In the military, there's no such thing.
Right.
They have SOPs that tell you what your job description is, but that is not the reality. The reality is you don't have a job description. So don't ever say that. So that thought process, that little inkling, that thinking, is immediately removed from your core, and it becomes very comical when you hear a civilian or someone else that says, that's not in my job description. And you go, what the fuck is that? What is a job description? Isn't it what I tell you to do? That's your job description.
Yeah.
So people are coming in and choosing a rate. That's great that you get your certificate and the training, and the majority of the training is that, but don't think that's all you're going to do, because that's not true. So even though I was a dental technician, I was a corpsman. When I left Cape May and the dental technician was being omitted, I had to go back to A school to be, now what do you want to do? You get first pick. As a dental technician, you get the top of the list of anything you want to become, regardless if it's a closed rating or not, because they used to close off ratings back in those days. Regardless if it's closed, you get top of the line pick. What do you want? All I've known now is corpsman, because that's what I've been doing, right? So I go, you know what? I'll just go corpsman. So I went to corpsman school, and then went to corpsman school, back to Petaluma. Amazing teachers, amazing environment, just, oh my gosh, just overall amazing.
Mhm.
I get there and it's like, okay, well, this is where you're going. You're going to Virginia. And I'm like, oh great, I grew up in Virginia. I'm like, Virginia's for lovers. I love it. So I got VA, and it was so nice. It was really nice. It wasn't, at first I just started to become a little bit, oh shit, we're back to this situation again, with the unwelcoming of the situation of not taking care of your people. But it's more of a tread lightly and then go run. So once I started treading lightly and I could see, okay, they are just different. It's not a good feeling. It's not a good feeling. And you start realizing, you start getting comfortable with the situation, and you start seeing how the dynamic of things. Okay, I see what it is. Don't talk to you. You're okay. Let's go. So you kind of start to get into that system of environmental, what do you call it? A workplace environmental change. You start to navigate through workplace, situations. Know what toxic environment is, how to navigate away from that and type of situation. So I started to come into that era of my life of situational awareness and how to navigate through that. So, it's good for me. So, I know how to move forward. So there I did dental technician. As soon as I got in there, the dentist who taught me dental technician a few years ago is now over there, and he sees me. He's excited to see me.
Yeah.
And he's like, dental tech. And I'm like, no. I just came from A school. I'm a pharmacy tech. I'm not pharmacy tech. I'm a corpsman now. I'm a corpsman. He's like, no, I need a dental technician. And I go, that's not my job description. Okay. I used to be a dental technician. I'm a corpsman now. So now I get to be corpsman.
Yeah.
For about 6 months, I was a dental technician. And the people that came who finished school got to do corpsmanship. Other people got to go ahead and get collateral duties signed off and become more efficient in their new rating. I didn't get to do that because I was still being a dental technician. And because of that, I was promised that I get to go to a new school, a C school, and I chose pharmacy school. Well, I got passed over pharmacy school, so my sacrifice of being a dental technician didn't really pay off. It just really hindered. Like, you guys screwed me. Like, this is ridiculous. So when they realized, when I had to vocalize that I got passed over, which was promised to me earlier, they went ahead and gave me pharmacy school. So I got to go to pharmacy school, which is amazing, right? And then I got to work with a pharmacy officer, which was an amazing person. And This pharmacy officer, I just cannot, it's just, he's a godsend, right? You find out that people that you find, I think that was my first time. You realize the people that set you up for success, the people that really have you in good thought and good mind and want better for you and try to teach you things outside of your rate, really lead that leadership quality, are not people in your rate. So you have to really look out, and you find yourself in good company with other rates. For a woman, when I went to Philadelphia, this MSTC was the person who educated me in leadership as a woman, not in HS, not what was happening inside my, work environment. You have to look outside. A lot of my peer mediations were with cooks, with the FSs. They weren't with HSs. They weren't with people who I worked with. They were outside. Most of my friends, if you look, the people who I still stay connected to are bosun mates. It's not corpsmen, so it's weird. So you really have to take yourself out of work and start really looking at the environment and be like, hey, who are you? Let me talk to you. And then you're realizing that culture of support is really around you. You just have to step out of yourself, step out of your, your work environment, your work area. So the person that showed me that was an actual public health officer, not a Coast Guard officer, public health officer, who made sure that I'm going to teach you something, and I'm going to teach you something outside the Coast Guard. I'm going to teach you something about you. I'm going to teach you something about what's called the TSP, an IRA, that type of situation. I want you to have a retirement fund, and this is how we're going to do it. And the reason why I have a retirement fund is because of this gentleman right here. Nothing to do with Coast Guard. So you really have to kind of open up. So to him, unfortunately, with the moving and stuff like that, constantly you fall in connection with people. Mind you, this is before social media, right? This is before big bang of the internet phone. I would have loved to stay in contact with him because he showed me so much in my early 20s that I would say just nobody's ever taught you things like that. So that's amazing. But yeah, I went to after pharmacy school, became an HS1 I went there as an E4, and then left as an E6. So I made E6 within 4 years. And that's just letting you know the support, not really the support, but if you have determination and you show them where you're going, then you'll see that the support can be there. And for that particular time frame at that place, we had a lot of people who were like-minded, who wanted to see everybody, for the most part, succeed and grow. So you really had that, but you had to fight for it. You had to create it. You know what I'm saying? We're in that creation process. So that was awesome. So yeah, E6, and they went to Alaska for isolated duty tour for a whole year in St. Paul. And that was, you were there, you were isolated. It's a different life.
Yeah.
It's a different life being, I tell people I was in the iceberg for a whole year.
Yeah.
Maximum incarceration for a whole year.
Yeah, it is definitely something that you have to be mentally prepared for, and it's no way to mentally prepare for it until you get there, and then you just do it and adapt.
You gotta do it.
If it's something you're trying to do, study to make rank. If it's a hobby you have, if it's trading, or you're trying to save money, if you're trying to perfect your skill set, like if you culinary arts and you're trying to get good at baking or good at, some form of food preparation. I mean, it is a time that you can take and self-develop.
Yeah. Yes. That's exactly what isolated do. You have to, but not a lot of people go in there with that thought or that fruition. I need to self-develop. Take this time as an opportunity to self-develop versus lose your mind. So, I was able to experience different, because when you're an isolated duty tour, right? I'm not just there as a corpsman, right? Okay. I'm there as a yeoman. So I had to go to Kodiak and learn admin for the week. And again, I'm back on the West Coast. So I love Alaska, love Kodiak, love Anchorage. So I get to learn from all these different people, their roles and responsibilities. I got to become the engineer of the watch. So I had to learn how, just in case we lose electricity, how to make sure we get electricity. I had to learn about water leaks because now I'm a plumber. Mind you, I didn't go to school for this. So Coast Guard is a very small and would teach you how to be self-sufficient because they don't contract anything out. They're not going to pay for someone to come and do this. They're going to teach you to do it. And what that teaches you as a person, where you could be fighting it like I was, I'm a corpsman, I don't do this. I'm a dental technician, I don't do that. Or I'm no longer a dental technician. I'm a pharmacy tech, I need to be in pharmacy. That means nothing. That's not your job description. It's what I teach you to do and what I tell you to do. So you have to learn to be a plumber. You have to learn to be an electrician. You have to learn how to be a DC and know what CO2 and AFFF and halon is, right? You have to learn all of that stuff. And you have to learn how to cook, because who's going to cook your meals on the weekend?
Yeah.
The FS needs time off too. So you get to learn how to be a cook. You get to learn. And then because you're self-sufficient and you're so remote, you also get to learn how to do other things that is pretty cool if you open your mind to it, right? How to lay down carpet. You think, oh my gosh, I'm not gonna lay down carpet. But that's the DC's responsibility. He can lay down the carpet. But what you don't know is later in life, when you buy a home, you know how to lay down carpet because someone taught you how to do that, because it's self-sufficient. We need you to learn how to do that. If you wanted to upgrade your office and make it better, because who else is going to make it better? Again, Coast Guard teachers should be self-sufficient. This is your place of area. This is your work. Treat it as, have ownership, right? So you start to learn what ownership is. You see a piece of, they always, the Chiefs would do it, right? Put a little trash on the hallway, just roll up a little piece of paper ball, put it right there to see who's going to pick that up. And watch how many people walk by, And then that one person stops and picks up the trash. And you go, that person knows what ownership is. And then tells that person, I'm going to invest in you because you're someone who will take it to the next level and actually be a positive role model and be a positive just entity for this to grow, grow upwards versus downwards, or making future changes, right?
This whole publication is all about going from nowhere to somewhere, right? Being able to stand on something so that you can travel in peace, right? So bksoulfarm.com, 1016 160 self-sustainability. Jump on a list and get yourself together, right? Because it is irresponsible to not even know what responsibility means, right? Or what it means for you to be responsible. So get yourself together, food, clothing, and shelter, protection of that, and support your interests and live.
In Hawaii, I got to learn how to create buildings, not create buildings, but work with I forget the terminology now, but NISU, I think it's NISU, work with NISU into taking a building and then creating it for whatever space that's intended for. So for me, I had to create, our clinic was being moved to Tripler, right? And even though we tried to stop that, the command wouldn't listen. It's like, no, this is what's going to happen. You're going to Tripler. You're going to the Army Medical Center. So while one person is creating a space at the Army Medical Center, I'm having to create a space on base for independent duty, a remote area. So I got to work with NISU on the type of floors. So I got to learn baseboards again, learn where to put a toilet in conjunction with the room, right? Where to put, just crazy things like that. Like, you don't know, but it's all facility engineering. So again, I'm a corpsman, but I'm not doing corpsman stuff. I'm doing facility engineering, which also, again, it opens up your mind that you can do this. When you retire, when you get out, you could be a facility engineer and just work with people on what they want, how they see their business, the layout, their blueprint of their business, and then say, okay, this is how we're going to do it. This is That was pretty cool. I would say that was a really, really good experience to have throughout my career, was being part of facility engineering. But
Yeah.
once that was done, I got to work with, I became the pharmacy officer for the West Coast. I became the supply officer for the West Coast. I became what you call the blood drive officer, which I won an award for top donation for the Coast Guard on the island. Immunization officer, having to go, to different islands to make sure that, the different islands had their immunizations and stuff like that, and their readiness. So I did a lot of medical readiness. And because of all of that, working with all the boats, corpsmen and isolate, still remote, but still working with independent duty corpsmen, I was able to also get to know their crew, and get to meet more people, like the cryptological unit over in Hawaii, and get to meet those remote people. And you find yourself more as a liaison, if you will, than doing your job. You're getting to meet other people. So you're like the PR of medical, which was amazing experience. And when you get accustomed to that, you get someone that says, all right, I need to put you back in. I need you to be a corpsman. And you're like, I'm not a corpsman. I'm a liaison. It's like, how dare you put me in a box? How dare you? How dare you? So that was my 20 years in a little bit. The short version of 23 years of being in the Coast Guard. 23 years.
Yeah, that was an amazing career, Chief. We thank you for that. Thank you for your service. And man, all of that wonderful information that you just shared with everyone. What key piece of advice do you have, Chief, for any young adult that may be thinking of a career in the military?
So what stuck with me, what stayed true to me when someone told me about, when I was already in the Coast Guard, about thinking about getting out, was you got to do something for 20 years, right? You got to do something for 30 years. You got to do something for 40 years. You got to continue to make money, because money is not free. For the most part, money is not free, right? It's not given to you. So what are you going to do? And for me, what stayed true was, you're absolutely right. When it comes to longevity and money, when a lot of people are not thinking about when they get older. And I always look at, there are the pension, and there, a lot of times, where are you going to get pension from? In the military, you're going to get a pension. You're going to get a good pension. It's not so much from the retirement, but also from the VA combined. You're going to get a good pension. Okay. On top of that, you're going to have to invest in your retirement. Your retirement is for later in life, but that's another pocket of money that you got. So you got two, right? So I would say, look at it like a stool, like a chair. And when you get a little older, you're going to have family support. So the family support is your children, is your parents, is all of that kind of stuff that you have, that you kind of gain community support. And that's your third leg in the stool, right? And then, of course, you got your fourth leg, which is what you're actually doing if you're deciding you want to have a job, or your investments or things like that. You don't want to have a job or a career. So people who are kind of like stuck thinking, well, I don't know about the military, look at what other job is going to give you a pension. It doesn't have to be the military, but in order for you to have a well-rounded nest egg, because nobody wants to work when they're in their 60s. Nobody wants to work when they're in their 70s. I mean, go to Publix and look at, these older people, right? And you go, do you want to be that at their age? Do you want to do that? And a lot of times you don't want to do that. I'm like, I don't even want to work on 45. Great. So set yourself up for success where you don't have to do that when you're 45, when you don't have to do that when you're 50 and still do 20 years in the military. You could be a single parent, whether it be a man or a woman, and you don't have to lose your children just so you can stay in the military. That whole culture and idea is changing, and it has changed. So you can able to still keep your still keep who you are, and then and finish your career, and then have something that leg of nest, that financial nest egg to stand on. So for people who are thinking about it, I'll just say, whatever you choose, just make sure you choose something that gives you something back in return.
Excellent advice, Chief. Um, what key piece of advice would you have for any active duty members who are preparing to separate or retire from service?
So I'm excited that I get, I still get people reaching out to me about this. I'm like, you remember me? Oh, that's so nice. Because, like I said, even though I was a corpsman, I had the different roles and responsibility. And I think, again, that was fate. That was fate for me to get to know a boatswain, to know an MK, to know an EM, right? An ET, and not just stay in my HS world. Because those people that are not in the medical world, those are the ones that are mostly affected when it comes to life after the military service, when it comes to VA and VA pension, right? Because they don't know. And then on top of that, a lot of these are in remote areas. There's no military clinic, Coast Guard clinic in the area. They're out in the TRICARE field. So they're seeing civilian stuff. And guess who's in charge of the medical record? I don't know if it's changed now, but when I grew up, it was the BMC that was in charge of the medical record. Ain't shit going in there. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So for those people that are really towards the end, or even if they're just hearing it and you're in their middle career, all right, I need you to look through your medical record from day one and see if there's anything that's not there that's supposed to be there. If you were through TRICARE, if you were pinged into a civilian medical, clinic, let's just say, Crystal Clinic, did the Crystal Clinic notes, are those notes inside your medical record? Because if they're not, you got to go reach out to that clinic and get those notes and make sure that's in there. A lot of people are like, oh, well, that was the independent duty corpsman's role, right? We were under sector remote place, and yeah, we've all been there. We all know those people. A lot of them don't do their jobs. Right. That's just the nature of the beast. You know what I'm saying? How many times did I get noodles with barbecue sauce and it was supposed to be spaghetti?
Oh Lord.
You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? I'm like,
really? That really happened? That happened?
Go.
Oh, okay. I'm like, oh.
The cans are labeled, right?
Hopefully they didn't last long.
Bruh, everybody. There's a lot of people that just don't do their job. Yeah. Fortunately, unfortunately, the ones that are the one you can catch that has the most impact are yeomans, SKs, and HSs. When SK don't do their job, you ain't getting your shit. If a yeoman don't do their job, you ain't getting paid, or stuff is not getting your PDR, right? And you don't even know, right? If a corpsman doesn't do their job, later along down the road, you're not going to get paid. You're not going to get that VA compensation. Why? Because it's not in your medical record. And you can go ahead and blame it's the corpsman's job, but it is your job when it comes to your health. And a lot of people,
Say that again.
It is your job. It is your responsibility to overlook your health. It's not somebody else's job. And a lot of people, we become accustomed to, oh, this petty officer takes care of me, and this petty officer, and this is this roles and responsibility. But what about your role and responsibility to yourself? Did you update that? Every year you got to update your will, not your will, but your life insurance. So yes. If you're divorced, why didn't you update that?
Right.
Now you're dead and your ex-wife is getting all your money.
Yeah.
Not the yeomans. Yes, he could have caught it if he did his job, right? Ultimately, it was your responsibility. Ultimately, it's your responsibility when it comes to your health. So if you are a person thinking about retiring, look through your medical record. Check out your medical record. I know medical records are no longer, back in the day was paper. Until recently, it's all electronic. But get with that. I need to go print it out, all that. I need to print it out. I want to request a copy of my medical record and go through your medical record. Go to TAPS twice. A lot of people wait to the end to go and do TAPS, like a year before they decide to get out, or 6 months before. Do TAPS 2 years before, because when we go and we do training for that long amount of time, TAPS is, I forget how long is TAPS.
A
3
week,
days, a week,
3 days. Not long
bro.
enough. Let me say this,
Not long
not
enough,
long
but
enough.
it's too much information. You're only going to retain how many percent of what you just went through are you actually going to remember? You're going to remember about 10%, 10 to 20% of what you just remembered, because it's too much information. It's just too much. Those 10 and 20%, you're going to be like, oh my gosh, I didn't know that. I need to know that. So there you go. You go ahead and you write that 10 and 20%, right? Now you already know that. So now you're working on that 10 and 20% 2 years before you retire, right? At least you got some information to start working on that. Your mind has been blown. Your mind is open, so you can start working on that. And then go back again and be like, okay, I already know that 20%. So now there's the other 20%, and things change, technology changes, information, changes, gets, everything just changes and gets better. And then you realize, okay, so now you just capped on another 20% of information. So now you just came out with something 40% of information that was useful to you. You may not need it, the other. Maybe you're not thinking about this, or maybe you're not thinking about that because doesn't pertain to you. And that's fine. You know what I'm saying? But now you have 40% of information retained versus that 10% versus that 20%. You know what I'm saying? So definitely take TAPS seriously. Take TAPS twice in the 2 years. When it comes to VA, if it's not in your medical record and you're not diagnosed with it, I don't care if you complained about it. So what? It's not a diagnosis. So make sure you have a diagnosis, right? Make sure it's in there. Make sure you have a diagnosis. And then when you go to do your VA compensation request a year before getting out, not 6 months, a year, at least a year before you get out and put the information. It's okay that a lot of people are like, well, I'm still seeing this, I'm still seeing, referral. That's fine. That's continue to see your referral. And if anything new pops up, you can always add that to there. But you at least want them to start the paperwork. You want them to start the process on your VA, and getting you out to those medical appointments is very, very important, because the VA, it got nothing to do with a lot of people get this misunderstanding. Well, I did my retirement physical, or I did my discharge physical. VA ain't got nothing to do with that. VA is going to set you up with a whole new physical. VA going to set you with a whole new referrals. You got to go and do all of that. And these people are contracted. Most times they don't know nothing about nothing. So you're going to have to be a little patient, right? You're going to have to start from scratch, explain to them what this is. I mean, they're all medical providers. They're all knowledgeable, so they get it. Don't skip on that. Don't delay it. Get it done. And then hopefully when you retire on the first of the month, or the end of the month, you get your paycheck from the VA the next following month. So there's really no delay in getting you continue financial support for your service.
Awesome. Thank you, Chief. That's amazing. Man, y'all make sure y'all take that advice, because that is some very, very, very crucial and important advice. So, Chief, how do you spend your days now that you're retired? What keeps you active? What keeps you busy, enjoying life?
So I bought companion dogs, and apparently they need me more than I need them. Oh my goodness. So I bought dogs with anxiety issues. Look at this one. This one's always on my lap. I spend most of my times, honestly, just working on myself, really, health-wise. Also, when you're in the military, you kind of, like I said, you lose a sense of yourself. You're not really paying attention. I am very jealous of people that can multi-manage themselves and work out and eat right, doing all those things. Just training their minds, continuing their education, versus just getting lost and just work, and then home, right? Work, home, work, home, work, home. So for a lot of people who retire, they go right back into the work. They go back into the work. And I think everyone needs to take a break and just, all right, concentrate and focus on yourself. If you haven't had the time in the past to do that because of work, because of military is 24/7, and you've been independent duty, like FSS for the most part, you've been independent duty for most of your career. Have you took the time to work on yourself? Because if you really have it, you really shouldn't be jumping into another occupation that's going to take that much more time of you, from you. I mean, give yourself the same respect that you just gave someone else, that time. Give your body that same respect, your mental health and your physical ability. I have a huge, my family is, we have hereditary high cholesterol. My father and my brother both had heart attacks in their late 30s. Again, my father did 26 years in the Army. They give shit food. You know what I'm saying? And then he comes home, and my mom, she's Puerto Rican, she's making chuletas, fried pork chops. My dad was obese, he was obese. And back in those days, you could be obese and be in the military, right? You got that perception of the fat guy, My dad, he was a big guy. He had height that kind of complimented, but he was a big guy. When you get out, you realize, you know what, let me take a step back and focus on myself. Let me get into shape. Let me start eating right. Let me start doing the research and doing the referrals on healthy living, That's what that is. And doing yoga, doing cardio, whatever it is spiritually for yourself, that deep searching, take that time and do that. As much time as you gave someone else, give yourself that same respect, give yourself that same time. And before you get back into the grind of life, and then make that a schedule to really do some interpersonal search of watering yourself, right? Just making sure that you get all the nutrition that you need mentally, spiritually, and physically. I think is something that I learned. Me personally, I did not learn this while I was on active duty. I learned this when I retired. Thought to myself, I'm gonna go back to work. And I said to myself, why? When I need to work on this, I need to work on that. I found out I always knew I was artistic, but I didn't know I was like really artistic,
Mhm.
An FS from Hawaii taught me painting. And I'm like, oh, this is so easy. Like, I didn't know it was this easy. And then you realize, bro, you are a great DIYer. I can take little stuff and create something huge. And I'm like, this is crazy. And you start really adding onto opening your mind to different creativities and find out you can create a lot of stuff. If you got two hands and you got a creative mind, you can make that happen. And I think a lot of times we kind of lose ourselves in just the daily grind of really just taking that moment to ourselves. And I appreciate other people that are able to do that and show other people you can do it. You just need to take the time. And I know it's exhausting, right? We get home, we're exhausted. If you have children, you got their life, everything, everybody else is first, especially, for a woman, for a mother, it's so true. Everything else is first, and then you're last. And then now this is me, I'm the last, and I'm at the end. So my son's in the college, my daughter is just about to finish high school, and my husband, he's working, and now it's just me. And I go, you know what? I'm working on me. So one of the things Raina is 16, so I'm going through whole teenager stuff. Raina is 16, and she'd be like, Mom, how come you don't cook? And I'm like, Raina, no, she goes, you're a stay-at-home mom. I go, no, baby, I'm not a stay-at-home mom. Stay-at-home mom are for women with babies. They're stay-at-home. I'm retired. That's a different situation. I don't do
Yeah.
a damn thing.
Yes.
If it ain't creating something I want to do, if it ain't going outside and working on my health, you know what I'm saying? I ain't doing it. I am not doing it. I'm here with my babies, and that's it. You're gonna
Yeah.
have to learn how to cook. You're 16 years old. Go learn how to cook. I shouldn't have to worry about what Michael's gonna eat, or what my son, who's 24 years, what he's gonna eat, or what Raina, who's 16 years old. Everybody needs to learn how to be self-sufficient. Cook your own damn meals. I don't give a fuck. That's what I do now.
That is great. That is great. That is great. That sounds like
I'm being
a
selfish, Pearl. That's
wonderful
what
place
I'm
to be.
doing. I'm doing me. I gave
You
everybody
said so
everything.
me.
I'm 45. Okay, I know I don't look it.
So our final question, Chief, is what do you think is the most valuable lesson that you've learned from your military service? And I know there are many, many lessons, but this is just the MVP, just one that you have been able to learn in the military that you didn't have before you got there, and you were able to have it and utilize it like everywhere, like outside of even now, while you were on active duty, and even when you weren't at work, if there's anything?
Relationship, right? When people tell you when you get out the military, the only thing you're going to miss is camaraderie, right? What do you miss about the military? The camaraderie, right? So for me, when it comes to relationship, to me, it was diversified. Military is easy, right? Because we're a diversified group now. We weren't so much then, but we have grew to be a diversified group. But what that means, diversity, a lot of people just think it's more surface, and it's not surface. It's not, okay, is your group, your relationship with people, is it diversified in color? Is it diversified in culture? Is it diversified in age? One of my youngest friends are just hit 30s. I'm 45. One of my older friends are in their 50s, 55. So my range of diversity in my relationship goes, very young to much older. And I think that having relationship and understanding that teaches you as a person, wisdom, but also growing, because you have someone young teaching you new things. You have someone young that's educating you on the world as it's changing, and you're able to keep up with that. So just because someone is younger than you, don't, like, dismiss them thinking you know more than them. And that's a little thing that you see a lot of people do as they get older. They not really listen to the young. They don't really, communicate and have relationships with younger people because of their age. And I think age is something that we take for granted. You could be 50 and have a heart of a 21-year-old, and you could be 21 and have the heart of a 50-year-old. So definitely really nurture and appreciate the relationships that you're building with your teammates, your shipmates, your supervisor, right? One of my good supervisors is still one of my good friends to this day, right? And that's a big age gap right there. But you build a relationship with, supervisors and juniors, contractors, the civilian people that work there, who's been there freaking forever, that have seen all these different changes. Don't dismiss them because they're not in the military. Have that diversity in your relationship. That person there has knowledge. They've seen the constant changes. Ask them what didn't work before, what happened, and what's the change, and they can kind of give you an idea of what, how it was before you, because I've been there the longest. But my big thing is relationship. If you're an introvert person who really don't like talking to people, and you get a lot of them, you could tell people are just very closed off. I would challenge you to open up. I would challenge you to build a relationship, come out of your shell and open up. There's ways to do that. You don't have to, like, let's go out and chill after work. There are ways to do that, just to open up a little bit and be able to kind of get out of your shell and create those relationships. Because when you get out, if you need something, like some people just want to be, I want to be a place of information where you come to me and I know somebody that knows somebody that knows something about something. That's something that's never going to change. You're going to need something in the future, whatever it is. And who do you go to with that information? And if you're always closed off, you're not going to know, like, who to go to. So definitely open yourself up if you're an introvert. If you're an extrovert, close that door a little bit. Ain't nobody want all of that. Okay, because what happens is with extroverts is they come off a little aggressive, right? And then people go, oh my gosh, close it a little bit. And you find out a lot of people more easier to come to you for, just building that relationship with you. So to me, the big thing is relationship. We're all people. We're people, right? And at the end of the day, watch how you talk to each other. Watch, be cognizant, self-aware of tone around you, and understand what that is, what that means, where it's coming from. Be a little bit more observant than reactive. But definitely relationship is what I would say to a takeaway from that's positive. really, 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 really positive from my 23 years of service is relationship building.
That's great. That's great, Chief. Yep, it is very important for everybody to put effort into our relationships. That is a key thing. So important. Chief Gonzalez, you done drop Natty G. You done drop you done drop so many jewels on us today.
So
Like,
you see this? I'm gonna brag a little bit. Did you see all these plates?
yes.
Okay. Do you know why I have these up here? So
I see some names up there, so I can assume, but go ahead, tell us why.
so because I became a mother early in my life, I wasn't able to really enjoy the freedom of traveling. So I tell people, if you're traveling, wherever you're going to, bring me back a plate. Bring me back something that I could say my friend went there, And it, it's a lot of time, it could be coworkers. Like I said, if you're an
Yeah,
introvert, open up and you'll see people will think of you when they see certain things. So
yeah.
I don't know if you can see it, but this particular plate right here, this blue one,
That's from where?
that's from Greece. So I had a friend back in Virginia who was on a 270 who got to go overseas to the Atlantic, past Atlantic, and went to Greece and brought me back a plate from Greece.
Yes. Yeah, I remember
Who's
that. Oh,
yeah, it was you.
yeah, we went everywhere. We went to Greece, Romania, Malta,
Yes,
Ukraine, like Spain. Like, yeah, it was
yes.
great.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
it started for me, this trend started when I was a non-rate in Charleston, South Carolina. Mike Horan, who I love dearly, and if he ever sees this, love dearly. He was my sea daddy, and he's still my sea daddy to this day. He he went TDY. He was a BM2 at the time, and got TDY on the Gallatin, the Dallas, probably the Dallas, and then went to overseas to Georgia, and he brought me back this Georgian wine, right, from like Georgia, and I was just like, oh my gosh, somebody brought me back. Somebody thought of me, and I was closed off. I was really closed off, but I opened myself up. And when you open yourself up, you start seeing that people think of you, and find ways to let you know that you're appreciated. And he showed me that appreciation. And after that, my girlfriend, oh, he was a BM. A gunner's mate went underway. My female friend, and she went to Haiti
yeah,
and got me a Haitian plate. And I was just like, it's
yeah,
crazy. So when I say relationship, all of these plates that I got are from people who I've had relationship with,
yeah.
opening up, having those conversations, right? And it goes all the way down. Like, let's see here.
Oh
But
yeah,
then,
I know you got plates.
yeah,
Oh
and it's
yeah,
not plates. There's no trinkets. The people, when they travel on their travels, they think of you. And I am
absolutely.
mostly grateful for all the relationships that I'm able to receive throughout my time. And yes, thank you, Pearl, for going to Greece and bringing me back something.
Hey, thank you for so much more. You already know. You already know, little bro, sleeping on the floor. Type situations, man. I love y'all forever. Thank you for joining us today on the Veteran Kettle podcast, Chief Gonzalez, Natty G. Um, thank you for your service, your sacrifices, the time that I know you have invested for your family and for your future. Anytime that you want to come back to the Veteran Kettle and just catch up, if you have anything going on,
Yes.
like you getting into art now, who knows? You may be selling art, you may be doing something, you know. Uh, hey, you always got a home here to
Thank
come
you.
talk about it, to come promote it, to come advertise it.
Thank
You
you. Thank you.
already you already
Thank
know
you.
what
Thank
it
you.
is. And you and your family continue to have a wonderful day. And man, thank you for all the information that you came through, stopped by and dropped on us. Thank everybody for watching. That's it for us. And we'll see you right here next time on the Veteran Kettle podcast.
Our soldiers coming home today.